I'm the eldest daughter of the O'Connors, a Chicago business family outsiders only dare to call old money, while people on the inside know it's an underground empire. And my cousin, Fiona Carter, is the modern-day white moonlight. Smart, razor-sharp, honey on her tongue, a knife hidden under a silk glove. In my last life I married into the Ward family, a bloodline of lawyers so polished even their smiles looked notarized. They led me around step by step, stripped me of my money, my reputation, my connections, until I truly had nothing left to wear but humiliation. Meanwhile, Fiona married a newly rich second-gen heir named Liam Sterling. On the outside, he was the golden boy of the elite. On the inside, he was a violence addiction wrapped in top-shelf liquor. Every day there was something breaking. Bruises. Crying swallowed down before anyone could hear it. In the end, both of us met the same fate, pushed to the edge, and falling in despair. Then I opened my eyes. I was back at that fateful night in the estate outside the city, where my grandfather, Don Richard O'Connor, sat at the head of the table like a living verdict. Crystal chandeliers threw light over glossy walnut, over two framed photos laid out neatly like two cards. One was Ethan Ward, senior partner at a top Manhattan law firm. Gentle eyes, a perfect smile, an expensive watch peeking out worth more than a condo. The other was Liam Sterling, heir to Sterling Foods, a food empire swallowing up half the East Coast. Cold, handsome, high bridge nose, sharp jaw, a stare that looked like it lived outside the rules. Last time Fiona chose Liam, and I like a piece shoved across a board got thrown to Ethan. But this time Fiona looked at me, voice soft, eyes bright as a blade. "Wanna switch, Vivian?" I understood. That wasn't an offer. It was a challenge. Revenge wrapped in luxury paper. I answered so calmly I surprised even myself. "Fine." Fiona reached out. No hesitation. She snatched Ethan Ward's photo like it was a life raft, then smiled sweetly at my grandfather. "I choose him." Grandpa nodded, satisfied like he'd just signed a beautiful deal. 2 dream sons-in-law handpicked. 1 lawyer. 1 tycoon. Each one a road. Each road a trap. I lifted the remaining photo. Liam Sterling. I studied his face, then looked at Fiona. "I choose Liam." My grandfather laughed, low and solid like the sound of a vault locking shut. I just turned to go upstairs when Fiona called after me. She stood at the foot of the stairs, swan still, voice like she was reciting a prayer. "If you can cripple Liam Sterling, make him live worse than dead within a year." She paused, letting the words drop into the house like a bullet. "I'll agree to anything you ask." I curved my lips. I was gentle too. Gentle the way someone strokes a blade before sliding it back into its sheath. "If you can bankrupt the Wards, and put Ethan Ward in prison for 10 years. I climbed one more step, turned back, and met her gaze head-on. "Then I'll agree to anything you ask." Fiona nodded. Her face was ice sharpened into an edge. And I knew the game had begun. Fiona and Ethan's wedding was held in an old church in Manhattan. Gorgeous, extravagant, suffocatingly solemn. White flowers covered the aisle. A string quartet poured wedding music into the air like honey. Fiona wore a mermaid gown with pearls down the back, a diamond ring so big people would assume it was a prop. But her expression stayed calm, like she was signing a contract, not handing her life to a man. Ethan Ward was still refined, warm, courteous like a sentence written on scented paper. Looking at him dragged me back to my last life. Same eyes, same voice, the voice that once spoke to me through prison glass with polite pity that killed you slowly. Under the pastor's vows, they exchanged rings. The groom kissed the bride. Applause thundered through the church, and I stood in the guest pews, smiling like I was watching the opening scene of a disaster. A month later, it was my turn with Liam Sterling. The Sterling wedding was on an estate in the Hamptons, lawn stretching forever, champagne so cold it bit your tongue, guests whose faces belonged on finance magazine covers and scandal headlines. Liam didn't say much. He just stood there, beautiful and distant like a statue planted in the middle of music and congratulations. Wedding night, 4 a.m. I was still sitting on the bedroom sofa taking out hairpins when the door swung open. Liam stumbled in, bringing heavy alcohol and that too familiar scent of another woman's perfume. When he loosened his shirt, the collar revealed dark red lipstick marks like ownership stamps. I watched for a second, then lowered my gaze like I didn't see. This was a strategic marriage. I needed position. He needed a proper wife to calm shareholders and family. But when his hand started reaching for my dress, I held back again, held back until my smile turned into a thin line. Finally, I tilted my head, voice soft but sharp. Babe, at least shower first. Then you can touch other people. Liam looked up. His booze-washed face darkened. His eyes locked on me cold and taunting, like he was sizing up someone bold enough to step onto his territory. Then he scoffed, loosening his tie. I'm sleeping in the other room. He turned away, leaving behind a half smile, half threat. Looks like tonight, I'm not the one on the chopping block. I waved, sweet as sugar. Sleep well, husband. 3 days later, my sister-in-law, Mia Sterling, threw a printed schedule in my face hour by hour, like a punishment chart. 5 a.m. Wake up and make breakfast for the whole family. 7. Clean the house. 10. Prep lunch. 2 p.m. Afternoon tea. 4. Dinner prep. 6. Yard work. 8. Late night meal. I skimmed it once, then laughed. Laughed so hard I almost teared up. Oh, so this was what marrying into a rich family looked like in Fiona's last life. If you didn't know better, you'd think they married a live-in unpaid housekeeper. Mia sat cross-legged on the sofa, lifting her latte like a queen. Got it? I tossed the paper onto the coffee table, tilting my head like I was genuinely curious. Did Sterling Foods go bankrupt? You just got married and you can't afford staff? Mia spit coffee straight out, choking, face turning red. What the hell did you just say? I shrugged. If you're not bankrupt, why am I doing everything alone? Where's the help? Mia gritted her teeth. I let them all go. I widened my eyes. Innocent on purpose. Why would you do that? Don't you still have you? Her mouth curled in contempt. My family brought you in as a nanny. What, you think I'm gonna give birth for you too? I rested my chin on my hand, asked slowly. Then what are you doing here? Mia froze. I kept going, still light as air. You're married too, right? Shouldn't you be at your in-laws' house making lunch right now? Why are you running back to your mom's place? She went speechless. I stood, brushed my skirt like I was dusting off dirt. Bottom line, I'm not doing any of this. Why do you get to sit here drinking coffee while I break my back serving everyone? I put on my sunglasses and grabbed my bag. I'm going to the spa. Don't call me before lunch. Mia shot up, shaking with rage. Try walking out that door. I didn't even turn around, just waved lazily. Bye. I got a full-body spa, took a nap that felt like heaven, then strolled the mall for a few more hours. Perfume, silk scarves, bags on both arms before I finally came home. The moment I walked in, my mother-in-law, Margaret Sterling, was already waiting on the European-style sofa, back straight like a flagpole, expression cold as frost. She had the posture of someone used to giving orders, used to watching people lower their heads. I smiled bright, natural as the perfect daughter-in-law. Mom, I'm home. Margaret glanced at me, voice like ice. So you do know how to come back? I nodded. Sincere. Yes. When I'm tired from being out. Of course I know how to come home. The air thickened. She crossed her arms. As the new daughter-in-law of the Sterling family, you don't stay home to serve your in-laws. You don't clean. And instead you go out shopping and getting pampered. Is that how the O'Connors raise their daughters? I frowned. Like I truly didn't understand. Dad left for work early. And you? Didn't you just get back from brunch with your friends? Margaret lifted her chin, voice sharp. We can choose not to eat. But you still have to cook. I stared, honestly surprised. Cook food nobody eats. Isn't that a waste? Her jaw tightened. Waste is Sterling business. You don't need to worry about it. Oh, I got it. She wasn't talking about food. She was talking about me. I sat across from her, smiling obediently. Sure. Mia told me I'm supposed to wake up at 5 to make breakfast, 7 to clean, 10 to prep lunch, 2 tea, 4 dinner. I tilted my head. Still gentle. But I'm not a blender. How am I supposed to keep spinning like that? And who in their right mind wakes up at 5 a.m., anyway? You tell me. Margaret's eyes flared. Whatever you were at the O'Connors doesn't matter. You married into Sterling. You're that grinder now. I kept smiling. Eyes curved. Yes, of course. I'll take my things upstairs and come right down to make lunch for you. Hearing me submit, Margaret's expression softened. She snorted and walked off. Mia stood, smirking. You think you can escape my mom's grip? Dream on. I took my bags upstairs, set them down, then walked straight back into the kitchen. I opened the cabinet. Expensive porcelain sets lined up perfectly, glossy, beautiful in a cold way. I pulled out a plate, admired the pattern. Wow! So pretty. What a shame. Then I let go. Crack. The sound was crisp, satisfying. Like snapping a stupid rule in half. I grabbed a second. Crack. A third. Crack, crack, crack. In less than 2 minutes, the cabinet was empty. The floor was covered in sharp white shards. No place to stand. No path to walk. Just a clean, cold battlefield. Mia ran in, face draining. Are you insane? I covered my mouth, fake horrified. Oh no. I'm so sorry. My hands were slippery. I dropped it. Then I accidentally dropped another. Oh my God, again. Mia screamed, fists clenched. I'll kill you right now. I got even more enthusiastic. Whatever I touched, I threw. Porcelain exploding against tile like fireworks. The chaos dragged Margaret back in. She stopped in the doorway, staring at the wreckage, eyes blazing. Then she stepped on a shard and lunged at me, arm raised to slap. Smack. You destroyer. That set came from Europe. Mia rushed in too, shrieking. Mom, she did it on purpose. Just because you told her to cook. Hit her to death. I turned, looked at Mia for one beat. Then I swung. Smack. A bright red handprint bloomed on her cheek. Mia clutched her face, eyes wide in disbelief. You hit me? I flipped my hair, arms crossed. Voice calm to the point of insult. Just standing there watching someone get hit looks sad. I gave you something to do. Margaret froze. She looked at her daughter, then at me, like she was realizing for the first time this daughter-in-law wasn't the kind that bowed. You hit my daughter? She shook. I raised an eyebrow, gave her a thin smile. Honestly, I was going to hit you too. I tilted my head, still polite. But you're an elder. Wouldn't look good if it got out. So I hit your kid first. More efficient. Margaret exploded, hand coming up again. You little who gave you the nerve. I didn't wait. I turned to Mia and slapped her again fast, sharp right across the other cheek. Smack. Clean. Loud. And this time, nobody was smiling anymore. If you want, I can keep going right from here. Liam walks into the kitchen, sees the war zone, and I turn a political marriage into a full-on quiet hunt, Chicago Mafia style. I've trained since I was a kid, I said, rolling my wrists like I was talking about something ordinary. My hands aren't just for show. Mia Sterling's scream ripped through the kitchen like someone was being dragged out of hell. Blood seeped at the corner of her mouth. One side of her face swelled immediately, tight and hot. Margaret Sterling completely lost it. She wasn't a society wife anymore, she was an animal protecting her young. She charged, eyes red, stepping on shards without even registering the pain. I didn't think. I reacted. Smack. Another slap backhanded this time. Harder. Mia's other cheek split at the corner, reddened, then bruised, swelling up like 2 overcooked steamed buns. Mia finally couldn't take it. She dropped to the floor, sobbing like a kid who'd just gotten candy stolen. Mom. It hurts. Help me. Please. Margaret panicked, half heartbroken, half furious. She knelt and grabbed her daughter, voice shaking. Mia. Are you okay? Oh my God, did she ruin your face? Call a doctor. Call a doctor now. The kitchen turned into a beehive. Someone ran to call. Someone screamed. Someone grabbed towels. Someone stepped on a shard and yelped. And me? I strolled out of that battlefield like I'd just finished a light cardio session. I went upstairs to my room with a mood so good I almost wanted to hum. Only thing I regret is I didn't get a photo of Mia's puffed up face to send to Fiona. My cousin would have laughed herself sick. That night, Liam Sterling came home early. Way early. He walked into the room like a black storm, eyes dark, face thunder, silence so heavy you could hear the clock ticking. He took off his watch and set it on the table, slowly rolled up his sleeves, revealing strong forearms. His voice wasn't exactly a question. It was the start of a sentence. What did you do today? I sat in the chair, thinking seriously, like a student answering a test. Morning full body spa. Afternoon shopping. Oh, and I bought you a tie. Want to try it? Liam's stare turned colder. You think that's what I'm asking? He stepped closer, voice dropping. I'm asking what you did to my sister. Oh, right. I nodded like I remembered. Mia? Nothing major. We argued a little. Then I slapped her a few times. The air turned to ice. Liam spoke through his teeth. Vivian O'Connor. Who the hell do you think you are putting your hands on my sister? I answered like I was commenting on the weather. Your mother. Liam's pupils tightened. His jaw flexed. My mother hit you. And you hit back. I shrugged. If someone hits me and I don't hit back, that's the problem. I looked straight at him. Calmer than he was. Your mom's older. I didn't want to touch her. I smiled lightly. So I hit your sister instead. Felt fair. Liam let out a dry, cold laugh. So basically, anyone hits you, you return it. I nodded. Yep. And right then, Liam suddenly reached out. His hand closed around my throat. The world shrank into a dark ring. I jerked in shock. His grip was so strong it crushed the air itself. My lungs seized. My vision swam like I'd been shoved underwater. I clawed at his wrist trying to pry it off. Useless. Liam's face twisted. In his eyes was something sick, almost pleased. It wasn't just anger. It was a game. At the exact moment I was about to black out, he released me. I hit the floor, coughing violently. Tears and snot ran down my face. My throat burned like it had been torn open. Before I could catch my breath, he grabbed my hair and yanked. Bang! My forehead slammed into the bathroom door. White pain flashed, then rolled through me in waves. I almost passed out, but my mind stayed strangely sharp like a blade fresh off the stone. He yanked my hair up, forcing me to look at him. Hard enough my scalp felt like it might rip. Above me, he laughed cold. Didn't you say? Anyone hits you, you hit back? He leaned in. So why aren't you hitting back now? I wiped the blood trickling from my forehead and gave him a thin smile. Slip up. I looked up, eyes not moving away. I shouldn't have held back from the start. Hope my face isn't ruined. Then I pressed each word. Soft as air and sharp as a razor. You sure? You want me to hit back? Liam smiled. The kind of smile that belongs in a crime documentary. Absolutely. So I didn't hesitate. Smack. A straight punch to the bridge of his nose, fast, hard, clean muscle memory from real training. Not a performance. Liam's smile froze. His face twisted like he didn't understand what just happened. Blood poured from his nose, running down his chin. He let go of my hair, touched his nose, stared at the blood on his hand. You hit me? I tilted my head, eyes still wet from choking. Voice calm to the point of disrespect. Does your whole family only know one line? Then, I pretended to tremble, scared like a well-trained actress. You told me to hit back. Liam didn't speak. He grabbed a robe, tried to wipe the blood, threw it down, then had to pick it up because it wouldn't stop bleeding. He held his nose, looking at me like I was a thing that suddenly grew teeth. 2 minutes passed. Still bleeding. He hissed. Vivian, you're dead. Then he lifted his leg, about to kick me in the stomach. But before his foot reached me, thud. He slipped and went down hard, falling backward. His head hit the floor. Thank God for the rug. Without it, he would have been seriously stunned. He lay there, bleeding, chin-soaked, shirt a mess like he'd gotten jumped in a parking lot. Pathetic. And honestly kind of funny. I instantly switched on my panic, dropping to my knees and clutching my chest, voice shaking like a baby bird. Babe, are you okay? I didn't mean to dodge. I thought you were about to kick me. Liam stared at me. The second he opened his mouth, blood ran into it. He gagged, rolled over, coughing and retching. I leaned down, watching, and my only thought was cold and simple. Weak. I'm not even warmed up yet. I was just about to help him up when his phone rang. I let go immediately. Oh, hold on. I picked up the phone like I was picking up evidence. It was a video call. I didn't think twice. I answered. A well-dressed guy popped up, one of Liam's party friends, grinning. Yo Liam, where you at? Tiffany's been waiting forever. Then he saw me holding the phone. His grin died instantly. Oh, sister-in-law? I didn't react. I calmly tilted the camera downward. You looking for Liam? Here. Liam was sprawled on the floor like a corpse, nose bleeding, chin red, shirt stained like a crime scene. The speaker exploded with a horrified curse. Holy shit! What the hell happened? He get jumped? I hurried to explain. Sweet and innocent. No. Just a little fall. Nosebleed. A little? The guy practically yelled. I thought he got stabbed. Then he burst out laughing. Liam Sterling got beat up by his wife? No way, who would? I leaned down, gentle like I was nursing a patient. Babe, let me help you up. Liam's eyes were bloodshot, face warped from pain and humiliation. Vivienne, he growled. Turn it off. I startled and ended the call quickly. Sorry. I didn't mean to. Then I tilted my head, eyes shining at the perfect moment, voice cracking like a heartbreak headline. But, who's Tiffany? Who's Tiffany? I repeated, like I just found a fatal wound. Your mistress? Liam roared, furious. Your mother. I bit my lip. Tears fell instantly pretty, precise, media ready. You're cheating. We've only been married a few days. I stepped back, voice shaking. I don't want to see you. And then I grabbed the phone and threw it straight into his face. Thud. I cried as I ran out. Behind me, Liam's roar shook the room like an animal with its tail stepped on. Vivienne O'Connor, you're dead. I left. 3 days at a hotel. Phone off. Completely dark until my father's people found me. Uncle James, my dad's most trusted man, stood outside my door. Voice low. Miss Vivienne. The boss sent me to bring you home. I got in the car and didn't say much. My father sat in the back, sharp and cool as always, but there was something deep in his eyes. So what the hell is going on with Sterling? He asked. If you can live with him, then live with him. If you can't, divorce him. Clean. I looked at him, my nose stinging. In my last life, I'd been stupid enough to tie myself to a trap and drag him into it with me. I'd signed things I didn't understand. I'd been turned into a criminal on paper. I'd pushed him so hard he had a stroke and never came back. Not this time. I asked softly but clear. Dad, if someone messes with me, what would you do? My father's gaze turned razor cold instantly. Who's messing with you? His jaw tightened. I taught you this. If they don't touch us, we don't touch them. If they touch us. He paused. We hit back twice as hard. I laughed and threw my arms around him like I was a kid again. Don't worry. In this life, I'm not letting anyone take from me. I whispered, thin as smoke, but edged like a blade. Not just that. I'm going to make every person who owes me pay it back with interest. He tapped my forehead like he was trying to knock the darkness out of my words. Enough. Come home. I went back to my family's place in Chicago. The living room was busy with staff. Clearly, the Sterlings had decided to hire help again because they'd figured out that if they didn't, the kitchen wouldn't have anything left intact to hire help for. I'd barely been upstairs when there was a knock. A maid stood outside, face like stone. Mrs. Sterling wants you downstairs. I exhaled once, then went down. Margaret sat on the sofa, eyes cold and calculating. Mia sat beside her, face still swollen, expression pure hatred. If looks could kill, I would have been torn into 100 pieces and hung over the fireplace. I lowered my head, slipped into the obedient daughter-in-law role, voice soft. Mom, you called? Margaret's tone was icy. You've got the nerve to come back here? Her voice carried through the living room, anger leaking out with zero control. I sighed like I felt guilty. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have lost my temper that day. My dad chewed me out too. Mia shot up, shouting. So that's it? A lecture and we're done? Vivienne, you slapped me 3 times. This isn't over. I raised a brow. So what do you want? Mia ground her teeth. I want to slap you back 3 times, no, 30 times. I made a thoughtful face, like a businesswoman running numbers. Or I could just give you 30 grand. I smiled sweetly. 1,000 per slap. Deal? Mia trembled with rage, fingers stabbing the air at me. Who the hell are you to put a price on me? You think I'm broke? I nodded like she had a point. Yeah. Fair. I opened my hands and shrugged. Then let's call it even. I took 3 slaps too. If you get to collect, I get to collect. I flicked a glance at Margaret. Voice light, but every word hit dead center. I don't mind either way. I'm just not sure. If you're okay with it, Mom. Right then I saw Margaret's eye twitch. Because she understood. If she let Mia collect 30 slaps, The Sterling family better be ready to get 30 back double. And this time, I wouldn't be throwing plates. I'd be throwing their reputation right under the lights. So now you want to hit your mother-in-law too? Margaret Sterling arched a brow, classic high-seat arrogance, cold and disgusted, like she was deciding whether to punish me with a whip or with public opinion. I let out a small laugh, softened my voice, eyes curved like I was innocent. That's not what I meant, Mom. I was just giving an example. How could I ever put my hands on you? The second I finished, 3 women in maid uniforms walked in together like 3 trapdoors slamming shut. One was older, sharp-eyed, white gloves on her hands. One was middle-aged, thin lips, looking at me like I was a dirty stove. The last was younger, quiet in the way people get when they're keeping a record. I blinked, startled, turning. What are they doing? Margaret sat up straighter, voice like ice dropping into a glass. Starting today, the 3 of them will teach you to cook, clean and do housework. Until you learn. Don't even think about walking out that door. I suggest you behave. As long as you're a Sterling daughter-in-law, you follow Sterling rules. I got it immediately. They weren't here to work. They were here to watch me work, to turn me into the Sterling version of a perfect daughter-in-law. A doll that knows how to mop floors and smile on cue. I looked them over, then looked back at Margaret. All I felt was amusement. If they thought this would crush me, they'd never seen how the O'Connors teach their daughters to stand back up after being slapped. I blinked, calm like I was asking about the weather. Mom, quick question. The daughter-in-law has to do everything, but the Sterling daughter sits around drinking lattes like a princess. Isn't that a little unfair? Shouldn't it be? At least a little equal? Margaret snorted, contempt sharp as a knife-tapping bone. And who the hell are you to compare yourself to my daughter? I nodded, mentally adding a line to the file. Double standards. Biological daughter is a treasure. Daughter-in-law is disposable. I'd heard Margaret once suffered under her own mother-in-law so badly she couldn't sleep. Now she'd become the mother-in-law, and turned her old pain into a weapon. She didn't want justice. She wanted a victim. I lifted the corner of my mouth and switched to gentle. Then let me pay to hire them. You won't have to spend a cent. I'm really not good at housework and I can't cook. Just let me off this once, Mom. Margaret's lips curved into something poisonous like she'd just watched prey walk into a trap on its own. A new daughter-in-law like you thinks you can bargain with me? Housework. Serving your in-laws, that's what you're supposed to do. Forgiveness? She let out a cold laugh. Who forgave me back then? I looked at that smile and felt something turn colder in my chest. Fiona was right. When a woman turns her pain into law, she doesn't need justice anymore. She needs someone to bleed. I clenched my fist, but kept my face soft. Yes, Mom. I understand. I'll learn. For a full week, I was locked inside the Sterling house like it was a boot camp for new wives. Mornings, rich people American breakfast. Lunch, soups, stews, roasts. Afternoons, folding napkins, wiping glass, cleaning things that were already clean. Nights, setting up afternoon tea like it was a ritual. My back ached. My shoulders felt shredded. And every time I took one deep breath, Margaret looked at me like I was ungrateful. But there was something they didn't know. I wasn't just learning how to cook. I was learning the house, the camera angles, the exits, the staff's routines. Who liked what? Who hated what? I was learning how they ran a family, the way you run a luxury prison. That night I called Fiona. I needed someone to let me rage out loud. And Fiona was the only one who understood what it felt like to be strangled by a polite smile. Hey, I said bluntly. Should I just blow up the Sterling house? One more day in here and I'm going to lose it. There was silence for a few seconds. Then Fiona's voice came back low. I lived like that for a whole year. Honestly. I'm impressed, you're still sane. She exhaled like she was slapping herself through memory. Back then I was stupid. I should have done what you just said, buy something and blow that place to hell. The wards are still manageable. Ethan Ward still smiles politely like he's counting money on top of a corpse. But what about Liam Sterling? I smirked. Since the day I smashed his phone into his face, he hasn't dared show up. Fiona's tone turned colder. Liam's dangerous. He won't let this go, he'll come for you. I laughed. So? I'm not scared. Fiona paused, then said it short like an order. If he shows up, go hard. Don't hesitate. Hit him so he remembers it for the rest of his life. I laughed so hard, my shoulders shook. Copy that. The Ward family is all yours. Bye. The next afternoon, one of the 3 supervisors, Donna, walked into my room. This afternoon Mrs. Sterling is hosting her friends for tea. She said all the desserts and drinks will be prepared by you. I rolled my eyes. All by myself? At least give me someone to help. Donna looked at me like I was a slow student. You've been trained for a week. What's left to learn? Mrs. Sterling says it's time you can handle a battlefield on your own. I nodded. Honestly, I only asked for show. I didn't need help. That afternoon, the Sterling estate turned into a fashion show. Rich women arrived in clusters, designer dresses, jade bracelets, luxury bags flashing like license plates on a supercar. Expensive perfume mixed with fake laughter until the air tasted sweet in a nauseating way. Mia was there too, dragging her little princess squad behind her. When she saw me, she sneered like she'd just found new hired help. Vivienne, you blind? There are guests everywhere. Are the fruit and drinks ready? Hurry up and bring them out. I dried my hands and answered softly, I'll get them. I carried a tray of hot coffee out. And exactly like I predicted, Mia stepped in and slammed her shoulder into me on purpose. Coffee spilled scalding hot, soaking my shirt, my skin, my wrist. Bitter smell rose instantly. The living room went silent for one beat. Then every eye swung to me like stage lights locking on a defendant. Margaret sat tall, disgust on her face like she was looking at filth. Clumsy. Embarrassing. I looked at Mia. She curled her lip. Got proof I did anything? Who saw it? I clenched my jaw. I knew this was mother-daughter teamwork, humiliate me in front of the whole room. Make me bow. Make me admit I was beneath them. But they forgot one thing. The O'Connors taught me this. If someone wants to turn you into a joke, make the whole room the bigger joke. I lowered my head. Obedient. Sorry, Mom. I'll go change and redo everything. No one knew I didn't go change. I went to the kitchen. I stared at the ingredients. And in 2 minutes I rewrote the entire plan. 1 week of playing rabbit just to get to today. 1 week to let them believe I'd been tamed. 1 week to let them think I was scared. I carried the desserts and drinks back out. Everyone watched me with that hungry look. Waiting for me to mess up. Waiting for me to trip. Waiting for me to be humiliated. Finally, I brought out the last dish, something special for rich lady tea. A pale yellow sweet soup, fragrant in a strange way sweet, but also sharp like a barn after rain. Margaret stared at it, voice flat. What is this? I smiled warmly, like I was presenting a beauty recipe from a magazine. Sweet potato detox soup. Donna taught me. It's supposed to be great for your complexion, boost circulation. The second they heard beauty, a few women immediately wanted to try it. Mia and her friends took small bowls too, because in their world nobody loses a status game over skincare. Someone frowned. It tastes weird. I put on a worried face. Maybe I didn't add enough sugar. That's why it's a little sour. Another woman covered her nose. Why does it smell like that? I nodded seriously. Could be my technique, but the benefits should still be there. They tried to swallow, tried to smile, tried to keep their image intact, but the flavor and smell hit them like a slap straight to their pride. Margaret took 1 spoonful. Her face changed instantly. This doesn't taste like what Donna made. I widened my eyes like I just remembered something tiny. Oh. I turned and walked back into the kitchen, then came out holding a small container. I opened it. A barnyard stench burst into the room. Several women immediately covered their mouths. One of the ladies trembled. Oh my God. What is that? I answered calmly. Even sweeter than before. A very special seasoning. I opened a second container. Then a third. A safatita, black salt, and a little fermented concentrate. I looked straight at Margaret. My smile slowly sharpened. Together they smell like manure and urine. But don't worry. It's legal. Some people use it for an earthy, farm detox vibe. The room went dead. Then someone gagged and threw up. Next, a rich girl covered her mouth and ran, heels wobbling like she'd seen a ghost. Another screamed because she thought she'd eaten the dirtiest thing imaginable when really it was just smell. But for them, the idea was enough to murder dignity. The living room exploded into chaos. Vomiting, crying, screaming, cursing. Mia sprang up, face white. What the hell did you do? I set the containers down, voice soft as a lullaby, each word barbed. I did exactly what you asked, Mom. You told me to handle the whole battlefield. I figured Rich Lady T needed a little unforgettable experience. Margaret shook, face draining. You. I tilted my head. Mom, you were really bold, letting me prepare food for the most respectable women in the city alone. If I'd truly been careless today, who would have been responsible? Mia screamed and charged at me like an animal. I'll kill you. I'd already placed a small bucket by the counter. Inside was a mix of pudding, cocoa, edible clay powder, and brown sauce. Looked disgusting. Harmless except to Pride. I swung it. The brown-yellow sludge splashed over Mia's silk dress, into her hair, down her neck, and even onto the friends nearest to her. Screams popped like fireworks. The farm stench thickened because I turned on a scent diffuser in the corner ahead of time. A lump of pudding landed right at the corner of Mia's mouth. She froze, eyes wide. Then she screamed an unhinged scream that shook the entire house. And Mia fainted on the spot, dropping like dead weight. I watched her collapse and came to one very calm conclusion. After today, even if the Sterlings had nerves of steel, nobody would ever dare ask me to cook for guests again. That night, Liam Sterling actually came home. I ran out to greet him, smiling sweet as rock sugar. Hey, babe. You're home. But the second I saw his face, I unconsciously took 2 steps back. Liam's expression was storm dark. The pressure around him was so heavy the hallway air felt thick. He didn't ask, didn't greet, didn't say a single word. He just looked up at me like he was calculating how much time I had left. Then he started unbuttoning his shirt, one button at a time. Slow, deliberate. And he rolled his sleeves up to the elbows, showing solid forearms like a man about to do something he considers his right. I remembered what Fiona had told me about men like him. They don't punish out of rage. They punish to prove ownership. Liam stopped close enough. I could smell the cold on him. His voice was low, clear, each word dropping like a hammer. Today. He stared straight into my eyes. What did you do? And I knew this was the main act. Before he ever hits, Liam Sterling always does the same ritual. Unbutton, roll sleeves, flex his wrist, silence. That dead silence is what freezes people, like the whole house is holding its breath for an explosion. Fiona told me once, voice hoarse like she was reliving a night with no exit. Back then I just wanted to die and get it over with. But I was different. I watched his ritual like I was watching a cheap villain overacting his part. And strangely, I wasn't afraid. My heart only sped up a little. Not panic. Excitement. The kind you get when you're about to play a hand of cards and your opponent thinks they've already won. Liam stepped closer. I stepped back, but my lips still wanted to curve. Vivian O'Connor, he said, voice like metal. I underestimated you. Each word hit the floor like shards of ice. Knowing you've got this much bite. That night I should've. He didn't finish. His eyes went feral. His arm swung up with zero hesitation like he meant to smash whatever was standing in front of him. I caught his wrist in a single beat. Then I turned. A clean shoulder throw so sharp the air ripped. Boom. Liam hit the hardwood flat on his back, head snapping down. This time there was no rug. I'd had it cleared earlier like someone clearing the ring before the fight. His skull hit the floor with a dry crack that changed the smell of the whole room. I crouched beside him, smiling bright as a flower. You were going to hit me, babe? He lay there, not moving. Half a minute later he forced out a curse, breath broken. Bitch. Smack. I gave him a crisp slap. Clean sound. Choose your words carefully before you open your mouth. Liam's eyes flared. Vivian. You. Smack. Another slap. My slaps are medicine for fragile egos. I tilted my head, voice gentle like I was soothing a child. Especially the kind that don't know shame. Liam clenched his teeth and pushed himself up, rage flaring like gasoline catching fire. You're dead. I'm gonna. He lunged and kicked for me. I slipped aside, reflex faster than thought. My leg moved first. I kicked him right where even the richest man on earth learns life isn't a stage. Liam folded instantly, hands clutching himself, face contorting. I hadn't even finished smiling when he whipped around, yanked open a cabinet, and pulled out a baseball bat. My heart jumped. Not fear. Fun. Oh. I lifted a brow. Now we're getting somewhere. He didn't hold back. He swung and charged like madness with permission. But to me he was slow. I slid past, grabbed the right point, and yanked the bat out of his hands like taking a toy from a stubborn kid. Crack. I brought it down on his shoulder hard enough to drop him, not hard enough to create consequences I couldn't undo. I don't kill people in someone else's house. I teach lessons that last. Liam hissed through his teeth, clutching his shoulder, eyes red like he wanted to eat me alive. This time, you're dead. Crack. I swung again, this time smashing the bat into the side of a chair right beside him, a warning shot. Quiet, I said softly. Screaming for help in this house won't work. They only run in when they're sure they're standing with the winner. He tried to yell for someone anyway, raw and humiliated, and reached for his phone. I kicked it away. Then I grabbed his collar and dragged him to the edge of the bed. I didn't need strength. Just technique. You like using violence to teach people rules, right? I stared straight into his eyes. Tonight I'll teach you a little. I opened the closet. Not for anything weird, like he was probably thinking. I went for the exact kind of things rich houses always have, and I knew where they were. Zip ties, medical tape, a thin rope used for seasonal decorations, innocent objects. But in the right hands they become locks. I zip-tied Liam's wrists behind his back tight, clean. I didn't strap him to the bed like a movie. I just tied him enough that he couldn't rush me. He struggled and cursed, eyes wild. I slapped him again, lighter this time but precise. Calm down, I said like I was comforting him. If you scream, your mom will hear. And you'll be even more embarrassed. That line hit. He went still for a beat, then growled. I'll kill you. I smiled, leaned the bat against the wall, and picked up his phone, unlocking it with his fingerprint while he was still dizzy. You say that too much, I sighed. Let's try something new. The phone rang. Video call. I answered like it was a delivery. The screen filled with his party friend, still wearing that half-joking grin. Yo Liam, you? He saw me and froze. Sister-in-law. I tilted the camera down just enough to show Liam's hands zip-tied, hair messed up, face flushed with fury. The guy on the other end cursed. Holy, what the hell is this? You getting handled? I sighed, sounding like an exhausted wife. He's got a temper. And he likes going too far. I chose my words carefully, not crossing the line but letting the imagination do the damage. I'm new here, I'm not used to it. I got carried away a little. The guy went quiet for a second. Then he laughed. Laughed so hard he choked. Don't tell me Liam Sterling just got disciplined by his wife. Liam's face went pale with humiliation. He snarled. Vivienne. Turn it off. I ended the call, acting startled. Sorry. Then I looked up at him, eyes glassy at the perfect moment. But, you called someone over, didn't you? Liam stared like he wanted to tear me apart. I leaned close to his ear and whispered. You think you're the only one who knows how to use an audience to scare people? Right then. Pounding at the door. I frowned like someone had ruined the vibe. I opened it. Margaret Sterling stood there, breathless and furious. Her eyes flicked over my clothes, then locked on the dried coffee stain on my wrist like it was a live exhibit. Vivienne, she said through clenched teeth. What are you doing in there? Why is my son screaming like that? I looked at her, wounded and pitiful on cue. Mom. I lowered my voice like I didn't want anyone to hear. This is between me and my husband. I paused, blushed perfectly. It's personal preferences. Margaret froze for a second. A flash of disgust crossed her eyes. Then from inside, Liam's voice, hoarse, packed with humiliation, broke through. Mom. Help me. Margaret's face snapped. All her social mask vanished. She shoved past me and stormed into the room. 1 second later, her sobbing hit the air like a snapped string. Baby. Oh my God. What happened to you? She fumbled at the zip ties with shaking hands. This crazy bitch. She's insane. I stepped in and leaned against the doorway, calm like I was watching a play I'd written. Easy. I reminded her politely. Don't hurt him more. Margaret whipped around, eyes on fire. And you still have the nerve to talk? She pointed at Liam's red marks, voice shaking with rage. You hit my son. I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police. I smiled so calm it made people want to strangle me. Mom. What are you talking about? I shrugged. I told you. This is a married couple issue. I looked at Liam with pure concern. He likes it rough. I was just trying to keep up. Liam's jaw locked, eyes about to explode. Don't. Call the cops, he rasped. Mom. But Margaret didn't listen. She hit the number like she was pressing a self-destruct button on my reputation. In the Chicago suburbs, the police came fast. 2 officers walked in, took in the messy room, the battered-looking Liam on the bed, Margaret crying and accusing. What happened here? One officer asked, expression hardening. I didn't panic. I opened the closet. No need to dig. I pulled out a drawer with a few items that were already there, neatly packed, worn, clearly used before. I turned to the officers, steady like someone being framed. Officer, this has nothing to do with me. I've been married into this house less than a month. There's no way I could have prepared all that. I lowered my voice like I was embarrassed. My husband has his own preferences. I'm not used to it. I only tried to go along so he wouldn't lose his temper. But I honestly don't have experience. The 2 officers exchanged a look. Faces slightly red, awkward in that way. Men get when they're dragged into rich people's bedroom drama. Margaret went rigid, like she'd just been slapped with her own weapon. She wanted the police to crush me. Instead, she dragged out the one thing that would embarrass the Sterling family the most. Liam lay there, breathing hard, eyes fixed on me like I'd murdered his father. And finally, he understood something too late. I wasn't the kind of woman he could hit once and train. I was the kind who turns his violence into evidence, his temper into a scandal, his house into an arena, then walks out, smiling like the winner. I tilted my head toward Liam, voice light as air. Babe, I murmured. Just for him. You still want to keep playing? The officers asked a few routine questions, then glanced at each other. The look that says we really don't want to be involved in rich people's sex life, and closed their notepads. They turned to Margaret. Margaret exploded instantly. You're just leaving? My son got beaten like this and you're leaving? You're not arresting her? This is domestic violence. This is abuse. One officer kept his voice even. Polite but firm. Ma'am, please calm down. Based on what we see here, there isn't enough to classify this as assault. This looks more like a private arrangement between spouses. Please don't waste our time. Arrangement. Margaret looked like acid had been thrown in her face. Are you blind? Arrest her. The officers exchanged another look. And Liam Sterling, lying there with murder in his eyes, finally spoke, his voice rough like sandpaper. Mom. Enough. He grabbed his mother's hand like he was pulling a live grenade away from the blast point. As the officer's footsteps faded down the hall, the room was left with just me and the Sterling mother and son. The air turned thick, cold, dirty, like cigarette smoke. Margaret whipped around to Liam, her voice hissing like a razor. Son, listen to your mother. Divorce her. Tomorrow. First thing. That woman is evil. I nodded immediately, looking sincere like a well-behaved student. Fine with me. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. Cook County Clerk's office. Margaret froze because I agreed too fast. She'd been waiting for me to beg, to panic, to cry. I didn't give her the satisfaction. Liam turned to his mother, cold and controlled. Mom, it's late. Go to bed. Whatever's between me and her, I'll handle it. Margaret looked like she'd been slapped again. Are you out of your mind? What is even good about her? She's lazy, disrespectful, disgusting to the bone. And you're still attached. She tried to launch into my crimes from the tea party, but the memory of that smell cut her off. Margaret gagged, eyes turning red with humiliation. She glared at me and spat out every word. She humiliated me in front of everyone. She made your sister look like a joke. If you still consider me your mother, divorce her immediately. I stepped forward, voice calm like I was explaining basic logic. Mom, that's not really fair. I tilted my head. If you hadn't fired all the staff and tried to turn me into a maid cooking, scrubbing, wiping the whole house, then I wouldn't have needed that move. I smiled very sweet. With a mother-in-law who enjoys bullying her daughter-in-law like you do, if you don't use the strong stuff, you never learn fear. I let everyone taste the tea once today, so it's done. Clean. Final. I spoke slowly, like wrapping up an operation. One hit to the root. No repeat disasters. Isn't that better? Now tell me, are you ever going to eat anything I cook again? Margaret clutched her chest, shaking, grabbing at her son like he was a life preserver. This is insanity. This is the good wife you picked? If she doesn't stress me to death, I'll never rest. I added gently, almost thoughtful. Mom, don't pull him. I glanced at Liam. He can't beat me anyway. Liam shot me an icy glare. Then he looked at Margaret, voice dropping. Mom, I'll walk you out. Margaret stared at him, pure despair. She jerked her arm away and stormed off like a dethroned queen, her heels hammering the stairs like nails sealing a coffin. The door shut. The house went quiet. I turned, leaned back against the cabinet, and let out a breath like someone who'd just finished a clean fight. But I knew it wasn't over. Liam Sterling wasn't the kind of man who takes one hit and goes sign papers. He was the kind who gets humiliated once, then turns someone else's entire life into hell to balance the scales. And sure enough, after that day, the staff all came back. No one dared tell me to scrub the whole mansion. No one dared tell me to step into the kitchen. If I even walked past the stove, the maids looked at me like I was carrying a bomb. Honestly, they were being dramatic. I just wanted to know what we were eating. Liam Sterling also changed in a way that felt wrong. No yelling, no hitting. Sometimes he'd even start small talk. He'd come home and casually drop little gifts like peace offerings, chocolates, a cheap hair clip, a mini perfume. Every time, I'd get misty-eyed, thank him politely, then turn around and throw it straight into the trash. More than a month passed in that fake peace, like still water hiding a crocodile holding its breath. One night, Liam walked into the room and spoke like it was an order. Tonight we're going to a party. Get dressed. Makeup. Look good. My first time going out as Mrs. Sterling. I couldn't show up sloppy. I hit the mall, bought battle gear, got my hair done, did skincare busy all day. That evening, Liam drove me to a lakeside estate on Lake Michigan. The host was a man in his 60s, polished, soft-spoken, the type you'd assume only plays golf and invests in hedge funds. He introduced himself as George Harlan. Greeting us with him was his new wife, a young woman around 20, about my age. Pretty radiant. But her smile felt a little too quick, like it had been practiced under pressure. Dinner was strangely relaxed. George and Liam talked markets, trends, investments. I chatted with the young wife Tiffany about fashion and movies. The more we talked, the more we clicked, like two girls our age trapped at an adult party. After dinner, George excitedly invited us onto his brand new private yacht, just to take a look. Liam had been drinking. He waved it off. I'm not up for it. Then he turned to Tiffany, overly polite. Could you make me a bowl of hangover soup? So, in the end, I went with George onto the yacht, and Tiffany stayed behind at the house to make soup for Liam. 10 minutes after we pulled away, George handed me 2 glasses of champagne. I stood on deck and took one without acting suspicious. After I drank, he got talkative. That polished smile turned into teasing. His eyes got sharp with intent. His hand got bold, brushing my wrist lightly. Testing. I looked him in the face and asked, flat and calm, what did you put in the champagne? George paused. His expression stiffened for half a second, but he forced a smile. Nothing. I nodded. Good. I smirked. Because I switched our glasses. George's eyes widened. What did you just say? I laughed under my breath. Why are you shocked? If you didn't put anything in it, switching doesn't matter, right? George snapped, lunging for me. I shifted just slightly and he grabbed air. His face went red as he charged again, then his steps wobbled. The drug kicked in. He pressed a hand to his forehead, fighting to stay clear. I leaned on the railing, voice gentle like I was worried about an old man. Don't push it. You're not young anymore. This kind of stamina isn't good for you. But men like that would rather die than admit weakness. George forced himself forward again. Thud. He slipped. His body tipped off the deck like a slab of meat, losing balance. I just stood there watching. The lake wind cooled my hair. My chest felt light like a door had finally clicked shut. George thrashed in the water. He could swim, but the drug scrambled his limbs, made everything clumsy. Help, help me. I lifted a hand to my mouth, pretending to panic. Oh my God, I said. I want to help, but I can't swim. I pulled out my phone and called Liam. No signal. I sighed like I was unlucky. Great. No service. I guess I have to call the police. The next morning, Tiffany collapsed crying. Her husband had accidentally fallen into the lake. I had called the police immediately, But he'd been in the water too long, and they couldn't save him. And Liam Sterling got two pieces of bad news at once. His partner, best friend, drowned. And his leg was broken. He was on the hallway floor, clutching his bloody leg, screaming like he couldn't believe it. "No, that's impossible. How is my leg broken?" Tiffany sobbed and told the story like it was real. "Last night you were drunk. You lost it. You ran straight into an iron statue. It fell and hit your leg." She shook, crying harder. "I was going to call an ambulance. But then the police called about George. I panicked and forgot." She cried like an actress. And I knew a 20-year-old doesn't lie that smoothly unless someone coached her. Liam was delirious from pain, still shaking his head. No, I didn't. I bent down and cut him off gently. They just had a tragedy. We should leave early. Liam roared. Are you insane? Take me to the hospital. Okay. I stayed sweet. Don't be mad. I helped him up. Then my hand slipped. Bang. I dropped him back on the floor. Liam screamed, real tears now, calling for his mother like a kid. I clapped a hand to my mouth, apologizing in a voice sugary enough to rot teeth. I got scared. You were being so aggressive. Liam's fists clenched so hard the veins bulged. His eyes were fire, but he was forced to swallow it. His voice came out rough. Help me up. Take me to the hospital. Yes, dear husband. At the hospital, Margaret and Mia arrived like a hurricane. Margaret grabbed a nurse in the hallway. Frantic. How is my son? What's happening to him? The nurse tried to soothe her. Ma'am, don't worry. The doctor is in surgery. I stayed quiet. One word from me would light a fuse. I knew it. But Margaret wouldn't let me stay quiet. She turned on me, teeth grinding, and swung. Smack. A sharp slap echoed. Except this time, Margaret froze, holding her own face. Because the one who got slapped was her. I rubbed my hand, voice perfectly sincere. Mom, I'm the kind of person who only takes a hit once. You already slapped me last time. You really thought I'd stand still and let you slap me again? Margaret clutched her chest, furious to the point she couldn't breathe. Mia rushed up to curse me out. But when she met my eyes, she stopped. There was humiliation, rage, resentment, and then finally only fear. 2 weeks later, Liam was discharged. His kneecap and lower right leg were shattered. He had to use a wheelchair. The doctor warned the first 6 months were critical. One wrong move and he'd have permanent damage for life. When Liam saw me, his face went dark as a burned pot. And I knew it. That month of good behavior from him hadn't been peace. It had been a noose tightening. Babe, I'm here to take you home. I bent down with a bright smile, voice honey sweet. Hospital life must have been rough. You look so much thinner. Liam Sterling looked up at me, eyes black as scorched stone. Get lost. Ah. So he was done pretending to be a polite husband. I nodded, relieved like the social collar had finally been taken off my neck. Perfect, I said cheerfully. If you don't want to see me, even better. Tiffany Harlan texted me she wants to go shopping. You know, her husband just died. She's not doing great. I paused exactly one beat, then dropped the last line like a needle into still water. Good thing he left her plenty of money. At least she and the baby she's carrying won't have to worry. It was like someone had grabbed Liam by the throat. His eyes tightened, reddened, then he snapped to me like he wanted to rip my skin off. You did it, didn't you? His voice was raw. Of course. Women are the most vicious. I blinked, putting on wide-eyed innocence. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Don't play dumb, Liam snarled. Vivienne, I'm calling the cops. I smiled, not big, just calm. The smile of someone who'd already played out every outcome. I leaned in close to his ear, low enough only he could hear. Your best friend is ashen and earned now, I said lightly, like discussing the weather. What exactly are you going to prove to the police? I tilted my head. My voice stayed soft, but the words were blades. Or should I post the recordings and texts between you and that old man plus the video of you bringing me to network, online? I looked straight into his eyes, stamping his worst fear in place. Let's see how many days Sterling Foods survives. Liam went still. I smirked. You call me evil? Compared to you, I'm just playing kid games. Then I added, helpfully, like I was giving style advice. Oh, and about putting horns on your head? I'm happy to do it. Just don't pick someone too old. 25 is perfect. Handsome, tall, clean. I tilted my head and smiled like it was innocent. And make sure his nose is big. Liam's face looked like it was about to smoke from rage. If his leg hadn't been broken, he would have launched out of that wheelchair to choke me right there. I patted his cheek like I was tapping something I'd already bought. Don't be mad, babe, I said softly. I'm here to take you home. Get lost. I didn't bother reacting. I stepped forward and put my hand on the wheelchair handles, but a large maid blocked me like a wall. Mrs. Sterling said, she told me, the young master is only to be cared for by me. I looked her up and down, my voice going cold. Who the hell do you think you are? I said bluntly. I'm taking my husband home and I need your permission? I only take orders from Mrs. Sterling. She didn't move. Move. I warned. I'm counting to 3. Count to 100. I'm not stepping aside. Oh, fine. I put both hands on the wheelchair and started pushing. The maid braced and blocked. We wrestled like two kids fighting over a toy, except this toy was a crippled heir in a wheelchair. Right then, a furious roar exploded behind us. Vivian O'Connor, you filthy bitch. Stay away from my son. Margaret Sterling. Her hair was wild, her face red with hatred, charging in like a demon in a fur coat. I pressed my lips together and instantly switched to my most innocent expression. Mom, I said softly. Why would you say that? I'm just being kind, coming to take my husband home. I don't need your kindness, Margaret screamed. Get out. Far away. She cursed and lunged, yanking my hand off the wheelchair. I pretended to turn the chair away, but Margaret yanked it back like she was dragging prey to herself. Let go, she shrieked. Let go of my son. I glanced down, then at the edge of the stairs right beside us. I'd been waiting for that exact moment. I guided the wheelchair to the very edge, just enough for the front wheels to kiss empty air. Margaret kept pulling, kept screaming, completely out of control. Let go. Let go, you monster. I smiled cold. You're the one who told me to let go, Mom? And I released my hands. Graceful, clean, like dropping a glass just to hear it shatter. In Liam's terrified stare and Margaret's scream, the wheelchair tipped forward. Thud, thud, thud. More than 50 stairs, straight down like a punishment path. Metal slamming stone. A body smashing railings. Liam's choked screams, cutting through Margaret's lungs, tearing shriek. I stood above, hand resting lightly on the banister, sighing like a doctor. You just had surgery, I scolded gently. You really shouldn't get that worked up. Liam lay at the bottom, gasping, face paper white. He looked up at me, eyes full of panic. Surgery? What? I tilted my head, smiling sweet as candy. An amputation, I said each word clearly. I signed the consent form, babe. Liam went blank. His hands shook as he reached down and grabbed his pant leg. Empty. A second where the world cracked. Then he screamed like an animal being slaughtered. No, that's impossible. Who did it? Who the hell cut off my leg? What bastard did this? I stood there and kindly explained, calm to the point of cruelty. Who else? The doctors. I shrugged. Your leg was done? If they didn't take it, you could have died. Vivian. Liam rasped, eyes bloodshot. You did this. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Don't blame me. I gave him a thin smile. It was an accident. I pointed up the staircase, like presenting evidence. Your mother told me to let go, remember? I stepped closer. My voice dropped, no acting now. Liam, I said. I don't want you dead. I stared straight through him, every word a nail. I just prefer you alive and miserable. Liam laughed like a madman, crying and laughing at the same time, right at the cliff's edge. So that's it. You too. Psychopaths. I curled my lip. You call me trash, so what are you? My voice sharpened. Scum. Animal. You planned every angle and still got played. He tried to lunge, but his body wouldn't obey. He forced himself anyway, desperate to drag me down with him. You crazy bitch. I'll kill you. Thud. He moved too hard and rolled right off the gurney, hitting the hospital floor like a sack. The pain stole his voice completely. Mouth open, no sound. I watched him, cold, like I was looking at a man without power. Then I took out my phone and filmed. I sent the clip to Fiona. One line. Look, I started collecting debts. 2 days in the hospital drained me. I went back to my place, planning to sleep, but the second I stepped into the living room, a group of big men rushed in and circled me, eyes full of threat. Before I could ask, Margaret Sterling appeared, hair a mess, face like ice. Hatred stacked on hatred. She barked an order, voice like a knife slammed into wood. Tie her up. Drag her to the basement. She stared at me like she wanted to eat me alive. Do whatever you want. Torture her. Kill her. I don't care. I put on a choked, trembling voice. Mom, what are you doing? You still have a conscience? Margaret ground out, each word bleeding. My family must be cursed for bringing you in. My son lost his leg. I want to tear you apart. I sighed and corrected her like someone wrongly accused. Mom, we already checked the hospital cameras. It was clearly an accident. Accident? Margaret shrieked, completely losing it. You tie her up. I lifted a hand. Wait. Calm. Give me 1 minute to prepare. The men glanced at each other, hesitating. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Less than a minute later, sirens and engines outside the gate. A line of men in black suits walked in tall, calm, heavy like steel. They lined up behind me and stopped, silent as a living wall. I turned to Margaret and gave her a flat smile. Mom, I said slowly. Did you forget? I lifted my chin. I'm an O'Connor. My voice went knife cold. You think I'm scared of getting jumped? The living room froze. If looks could kill, Margaret would have turned me into dust. And right then, a commanding voice rang out, filling the hall like a judge's gavel. What's going on here? Everyone shut up instantly. Richard Sterling, my father-in-law. A man who rarely showed his face. But when he did, it was to end wars by choosing who would lose. Margaret grabbed at him like a drowning woman, tears pouring. Richard, our son. That woman ruined him. He lost his leg. Richard looked at me, eyes cold as ice. There was pain. Anger pressed down beneath the calm of a man who's controlled crises his whole life. He signaled. Study now. In the study, Richard sat behind a big desk, watching every chat log, every recording on the phone I placed in front of him. He watched for a long time. His face didn't change, only his finger tapped the desk in a steady rhythm. I stood beside him and sighed like I was mourning a business. Dad, I said softly, if these messages ever reach the press, Liam won't just lose a leg. I looked at him and smiled thin. How many days do you think Sterling Foods survives? Richard looked up. What do you want? I placed a hand on my chest, voice bright as innocence. I don't want much, I said. I'm your daughter-in-law, after all. Richard narrowed his eyes. Divorce, he said bluntly. Sterling will agree immediately. Name your terms, anything. But one condition. He stared at me like stamping a contract. These things can never reach a third party. I smiled. I knew why he folded so quickly. Not because he loved his son. Because he'd already seen it. Liam Sterling was broken. And a man like Richard never bets a company's future on a piece that's already rotten. He just waits for the right moment to swap the piece. In the Sterling study, the most important thing wasn't right or wrong. It was the company. Richard Sterling sat behind the desk, hands folded, looking at me like a debt that could be negotiated. He didn't ask if I was hurt, didn't ask if I was scared. Men like him only ask one question. What do you want? I met his eyes and smiled, sweet, cooperative. I don't want much, I said. Just, I deserve compensation for enduring all this. I paused, then dropped the number like a bullet. 200 million. Richard didn't blink. Didn't flinch. He just tapped the desk, measuring whether the number was worth buying silence. Then he nodded. Done. I knew he would. To Richard, 200 million was just trash pickup for a PR crisis that could blow Sterling Foods off the map. But the first person to object to the divorce wasn't Richard. It was Margaret. She stormed in like a hurricane, face red, voice cracking with hate. You ruined my son and you think you can just walk away? In your dreams. Margaret pointed right at me. Vivian O'Connor. In this life you live as my son's wife. When you die, you'll still be a ghost in the Sterling family. I blinked and nodded like an obedient student. Okay. Okay, I said gently. No divorce then. I even smiled honestly. Truth is, I don't have to leave this marriage. The Sterlings were the top family in the region. My father-in-law was steel. My mother-in-law was vinegar. My husband was missing a leg. If you think practically, this life was convenient. And if I looked even further ahead, if I accidentally cheated someday, as long as the other man had working legs, Liam could never keep me anyway. Just imagining it felt fun. From that day on, I let loose. Bars every night. Karaoke. Clubs. Young pretty boys lined up in my DMs. I had so much fun I forgot the way home. Margaret got so furious her veins looked ready to burst. Vivian, do you have no shame? Dressing like that every day, do you think I don't know what you're doing out there? I leaned back in my chair, sipping soda like a happy widow. Mom, how is that my fault? I said casually. Your son can't do the job, am I supposed to live like a nun? I winked, smiling sweet. Besides putting a hat on his head? He agreed to it. He practically suggested it first. Margaret ground her teeth but couldn't do a thing. And then, her rage got crushed by something bigger. Because after her son became disabled, Richard Sterling suddenly started investing his energy elsewhere. A mistress more than 10 years younger than Margaret. And a child on the side. A fire hidden too long always shows. Margaret found the address in 3 days, then marched over with every ounce of pride she had left to handle it. They said the mistress fought like a Marine. Margaret lost. Not just lost, she collapsed on the spot. A hemorrhagic stroke. Less than 30 minutes after she got to the hospital, the doctors declared she'd be paralyzed from the waist down. When I heard, I let out a quiet laugh. So now mother-in-law and husband could roll together in wheelchairs for the rest of their lives. Perfect. 6 months later, Fiona and I visited Lucas Grant in prison. Yes, I changed his name to fit America. He'd once been a senior partner at a top firm. Now he was an inmate, license revoked, sentenced to 12 years for fraud, bribery, and destroying evidence. Lucas stood behind the glass, eyes red, fists clenched. His face looked exactly like Liam's when he realized his pant leg was empty. Collapsed. Furious. Disbelieving. Why? Lucas screamed at Fiona. Why would you do this to me? Fiona looked at him, calm like reciting a law she'd memorized. Because I know you too well, she said. If you weren't sitting there today, I would be. She gave a thin smile. Better you die than me. That's a rule I finally learned. I nudged Fiona, acting offended. Hey, I muttered. Ease up. I just helped you pay off a big debt. After prison, Fiona introduced me to a divorce lawyer who specializes in dirty rich families. A month later I was officially single again. And I walked away with $500 million from the Sterlings. Seriously. Blessings like that. Finally my turn. The day the judgment became official, I went back to the Sterling house to grab my things. Fiona came with me. What we saw looked like karma framed and hung on a wall. Liam sat in a wheelchair, his upper body weak now, screaming at the caregiver like a trapped animal. Margaret lay in a corner, drooling, eyes blank, a blanket covering legs that could no longer feel anything. Fiona stood there, not even trying to hide her satisfaction. Where's Mia? She asked. Like she summoned it, a shriek tore through the house. Upstairs, 2 women were yanking each other's hair, fighting in a tangled mess, dresses ripped, faces scratched, screaming profanities. Then a boy around 12 burst out and clamped his teeth into Mia's arm. You're bad. Don't bully my mom. Mia screamed from the bite, rage taking over, and slapped the boy across the face. One slap. Enough to light the whole house on fire. The other woman went feral and started beating Mia like a drum. The boy jumped in too. 1 grown woman plus a kid. Mia couldn't handle it. They struggled. Mia stumbled, lost her balance, and rolled like a ball down the stairs. Thump, thump, thump. She stopped right in front of Fiona and me. Her forehead split open, blood streaming. She wiped it and stared at the red on her hand. Before she could say anything, her eyes rolled back. And she dropped. No clue if she fainted or died. Fiona looked down, voice cold as steel. Only this kind of life fits people like them. I got my stuff. We walked out like we were stepping out of a cage. Outside, the sky was painfully blue. The wind was cool. The sunlight was soft. I looked at Fiona. Fiona looked at me. We said it together. So where to now? Then we both laughed. Yeah. As long as it's freedom. Anywhere is fine.